Hi, Bob here. Another message about those that want you to think also want you to thrive. And the point of this particular video is to talk about positive thinking, which is so overused these days. There's so, ever since that sort of secret thing came out. But that power, that insightful concept of positive thinking in order to get something or to materialize something or to manifest something in that spiritual sense, that's not a new concept. That's not something that just came out in the 90s or, that when that became a relatively popular kind of movement. That's something that's been around forever. Some fairly recent proof about it is there's a guy named Napoleon Hill that wrote a book that you should read, by the way. And this really sounds like a new age sort of ooey gooey kind of thing. He wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. Ooh, zzz, Well, he wrote that. It was published first time in 1937, right after the Great Depression. So this isn't like some new age movement. This was before World War II and right after the Depression. And he talked about the power of thinking. And the way Napoleon Hill kind of puts it together, I'll get into this on a more thing. In fact, I'm even making an explainer video that if you want to know about it, let me know. I'll get you tagged to it so that you can do it. But his notion was that the human brain is virtually a transmitter and receiver out into the ether, as they called it back then, out into the great vast collective consciousness, or whatever you want to call it. And that's what the human nervous system virtually is, literally is this sender and receiver of thoughts and ideas or vibrations that are put out into the environment. And when you take those emotions and those thoughts, and this is one of the chapters he talks very specifically about it, because you remember back then, that's when they first sort of created radio and radio waves, and they were first understanding that stuff from Marconi, where they, hey, you can take a voice and you can record it, and then you can put it into this transmitter that will take the vibrations, the sound waves of that voice, and step up the vibrations to a thing that you can send out over the airwaves into the ether. And then it would go across a space without any wires or anything. It would go across this space, and then you'd have a receiver. Another antenna would pick it up. It would take it down into the receiver that would then translate that higher frequency into a lower frequency that we could hear. So we have radio. Whoa, cool. And so this notion of taking and transmitting thoughts, ideas, in the verbal sense, putting it out across space, and then having someone else really hear it. Someone else hear it in the same sense that it was delivered initially. This is an understanding that they begin to have. And his notion, his concept is that the human brain, the human nervous system, is nothing more than like a radio transmitter and receiver. We have thoughts and ideas. We mix those with emotions, and we put that into this sort of subconscious or unconscious mind, and it transmits it out into the ether. Right? And other brains pick up that transmission and then solidify it back into what we would call reality. So these ideas, they just start out as concepts and ideas, whether it's because of other brains are transmitting stuff, or we get some other notions, or we pick it up with our senses. We put that together, we collect it, and then it begins to solidify. And that's what turns eventually into reality. So this isn't some, it's not some ooey gooey spiritual sort of new age notion. It's just kind of how the woof and warp of how things work. And he wrote about this way back when. So this thinking and thriving, that's where it kind of comes from. This positive thinking concept. This is not just some silly kind of dreamy idea. It goes with some action, of course, and a lot of people talk about that as well. But the notion is you've got to be able to think in order for you to thrive at some point. If you think of something and start to solidify that, and you transmit that out into the ether, so to speak, eventually you think about it hard enough, with enough emotion, with enough and you continue to put it out there, it starts to become a reality. You solidify it into something that's solid. So this t-shirt will help you do that. Get that. Go to bobasodestore.com and learn how to think and thrive.